What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another Land Sports Show. I'm your host, Kevin Sleds, and with me, at least right now, I just have Derek Dimmitt. How you doing
What's
tonight,
up,
Derek?
Kev? Oh, doing pretty good so far. It's finally the start of the regular season for football. It feels like the off season, despite only them having three preseason games now, seems like that preseason schedule just kind of drags along. Especially now that starters don't really play in the games; it's pretty much all backups. So excited to see real football, real NFL football this weekend, starting tomorrow, actually.
Same here, same here. And we might be joined by Clarence here shortly. So we'll talk about the Guardians a little bit since he's not a big Guardians fan. They're after losing 3 of 4 to Kansas City, they've kind of righted the ship here against the Pirates and then against Kansas City, taking the first two so far. Looking for the sweep tonight. Up 4.5 games now on Minnesota and 5.5 on Kansas City. So a win tonight could really put a hurting on the Royals' chances. And I think who's on the mound tonight?
Let me take a gander here.
Can't remember.
Um,
Yeah, we're well prepared here, folks.
yeah, we
Ben
are.
Lively. Ben Lively's on the.
There we go. Lively. Yep.
I know he had a rough outing his last time, so hopefully he gets a better outing. And the starters have been awesome, like the last couple games. Tanner Bybee last night, Gavin Williams before him, Matthew Boyd, Alex Cobb had a perfect game going into the seventh, and then Matthew Boyd before him. So those two were so far working out pretty well and giving a boost
Yeah.
to that rotation.
Yeah. Both of them have been about what better than what could be expected for what you got them for. Matthew Boyd, coming off of Tommy John surgery, he's looked great in his starts. Cobb had the issue with the fingernail, but that's healed and he looked great the other night, and he's looked great in all of his outings really for Cleveland since coming over from San Francisco. He was coming off injury also, so you didn't know what you were going to get from either of them really because of their injuries from earlier this year, or recovering rather, in the case of Matthew Boyd, but both have stepped in and kind of given a little bit of that veteran leadership to the rotation that you're missing when Bieber went down. I know Bieber's been around. It's not that he's, off doing his own thing or anything, but, you get that with Cookie, but it was clear all season long that if they want to be a playoff team, Cookie Carrasco wasn't going to be a starter that can be counted upon, even as a fifth starter. So it looks like now Gavin Williams is starting to get back into a groove here after missing most of the first part of the season with his injury. Tanner Bybee's looking like a future ace. As we've seen so far in his short major league career last year and this year. The bullpen's been great all year, so that continues as, Class A. It feels like he just got here in a way, and he's already the franchise leader in saves already. So that's crazy to think about. But when you save, what is it now? 28 consecutive opportunities that he's been successful on. That's crazy. You think about, Jose Mesa and Mike Jackson, and then more recently Bob Wickman, and some of those guys that were great closers for the Cleveland baseball, but they always seem to have their trip ups.
How
And
could you forget Joe Borowski?
yeah, Joe Blow. Yeah. The list goes on, but those guys, while they had their moments of greatness with Cleveland, they weren't slam the door closers. And I've seen the stats or whatever that puts him pretty much in line with where Mariano Rivera was at this stage in his career after so many save opportunities and games pitched. And if he can stay healthy, and that's a lot to ask, when he pumps the ball in there at 100, 103 miles per hour, pretty much every pitch he throws outside of his slider, which sits low 90s. So, if he can stay healthy, and we'll discuss probably this offseason if he'll be in Cleveland much longer. Because if you sell him this offseason, it's not going to be much higher of a price that you can ask. And with the volatility of relievers, sometimes you got to part with them before you're ready to, if you want to get anything in return. But yeah, it's great to see them rebound after a rough go of it last week with Kansas City. They were able to take that afternoon game, the game 4 of that series, and parlay that into a good weekend against the struggling Pirates. And Kansas City went down to Houston and took their lumps against the Astros, which I know it's hard to say go Astros or be happy that the Astros are winning, but when it benefits you directly, you kind of take that for what it's worth. And it kind of takes me back to, and I mentioned this last week on the show, but as listening to the game and Tom Hamilton, when discussing, losing 3 or 4 to Kansas City, said, you could be a week from now, if Kansas City goes down and struggles in Houston and the Guardians take care of business in Pittsburgh, it can be a completely different story than how we were feeling a week ago at this time. And, he hit the nail on the head because, like you said, win tonight for the Guardians, and Kansas City is really going to be behind the 8 ball in terms of the Central Division standings and playoff race.
Yeah, and you talk about Classe. I mean, you got to think he and Terry Skubal are the 2 leading candidates for the Cy Young Award. So, yeah, I'm being a homer, being biased, but I got to give it a Classe. The season he's had is freaking amazing. I mean, there's not even a doubt now when he goes out there, he's going to close it out. It's like automatic pretty much. And you can't ask for more than that out of your closer for sure.
Yeah. And the great thing about that is, it's a starter for Detroit and a reliever for Cleveland that you just mentioned as, front runners for the Cy Young. It's not,
right.
A pitcher for the Yankees or Boston or, the Astros or Texas or some of these kind of powerhouse that we tend to think of when thinking of these type of awards. But yeah, when you're having the seasons like they are, it's hard to, not let your bias towards the East or the West divisions get in the way of that, because if either of those were in New York or whatever, there'd be no question about it. But,
right.
But yeah, it's great that the Guardians have kind of rebound. It was kind of their first bout of adversity in a way, not counting injuries, obviously, but through the first half of the season, they pretty much had built that lead, and it was like, oh, we have this lead, no one's going to catch us. But then Kansas City got hot, and Minnesota's hung in the shadows, so to speak. And it was great to see them rebound from that adversity of last week, where if they struggled with Pittsburgh and then went to Kansas City, it could be Cleveland that's 5-6 games back of the Royals. And with a young manager and a young team, it's great to see Vogt kind of bring the team back together. And they're getting, we've talked about John Kinsey Noel quite a bit here the past couple weeks, but Kyle Manzardo, your guy, Big Christmas. But Kyle Manzardo, since coming up when rosters expanded, and they don't expand like they did 4 or 5 years ago, but
right.
Alex Cobb returning and Manzardo coming up to boost the offense, and he's done just that. 2 home runs in his first game back on Sunday, and three hits last night.
Yeah, he's 5 for 10 since coming back.
Yeah, that's crazy. And the downside of it is him taking some of those DH at bats are going to kind of cut into John Kinsey Noel's at bats. But if you can platoon them righty lefty. That's a potent DH combination.
Definitely. Yeah, so we'll see if they can complete the sweep tonight and push the Royals 6.5 back and pretty much out of the division race, barring a miracle. So before we, as we transition into the football talk, just wanted to give another shout out to our Week 2 high school football players of the week. Casey Miser from Highland, Jeremiah Thomas of West Branch, Joey Pollock of Twinsburg, Jack I of Wyndham, who we'll see. Actually, we'll see Joey Pollock and Jack I Friday night. Jackson Farley out of Menor, Ryan Taylor out of Rocky River, and Cole Norris from Amherst. Congratulations, guys, and keep up the great work this season. All right, so Saturday, your Ohio State defeated the Akron Zips by a score of 52-6. Really no surprise there. The game kind of went like everybody expected it to. I know Will Howard and the offense kind of got off to a slow start, had some drops early. Jeremiah Smith had that the pass he probably would have took to the house if he would have caught it, but got the dropsies. But he got the jitters out. Ended up leading the team with 92 yards receiving and a couple touchdowns. That kid's a real deal. I mean, he could end up being as good, if not better, than Marvin Harrison, from what a lot of people are saying. And you could see the talent just from watching him against Akron. And I'm excited to see what he can do this year. Yeah, it was kind of a slow game with the running game. Travion Henderson had 8 carries, 65 yards. Judkins had 55 on 13 carries. Judkins had the score between the two. And Carnell Tate, another young guy that they're looking to step up this year, had a touchdown catch. And Emeka Ibuka had kind of a quiet game, 4 catches, 51 yards. I'll tell you what, though, I was pretty impressed with the Akron front four. They made it tough on the Buckeyes, at least early on. And, I know there's a few of those guys that made a preseason All-MAC. So, at least Akron should have a pretty decent defense this year. What's your takeaways from the game?
Yeah, kind of like you said, the offense for the Buckeyes got off to that slow start, but, give credit to Akron's defense, especially like you said, their front four. And, for those kids on Akron and this week with Central Michigan, a lot of them probably had aspirations of playing for, those Power 5 schools. And this was kind of their opportunity to get out there and see how they kind of stack up. And I think it was the television broadcast said, this is your chance, to put something on tape against the number 2 team in the country. If you're an Akron Zip. And, a few of them did put up some decent games, and, hopefully they can parlay that into a great season. And, personally, I know you and I being Kent State alums, we don't want to see them do too well, but, but yeah, until the Buckeyes, really probably until they head out west to Oregon, that's probably their first big test. Up until then, it's just kind of getting everything in order leading up to that point. As difficult as that is to say, you don't want to look ahead. It's, take each week at a time. But regardless of how many times a coach or player gives you that cliche of 1 week at a time, they're human. They're looking ahead. They know what's coming. So yeah, stay healthy. Jeremiah Smith, a great debut as a Buckeye, a true freshman to go out there and do that regardless of the opponent. It's great to see. It gives you a lot of hope going forward. I know people argue about, is this a defensive back factory or a wide receiver factory, and what Coach Hartline, Coach Day, and the Buckeyes have been able to do probably the last 5+ years of what they've been able to do at college, and then getting these guys into the pros. And a lot of them are team's number 1 receiver, number 2 receiver, and captains on their team. It's just great to see. And if you're a high school wide receiver being recruited for that, what more could you want than seeing true freshmen go out there week one and make some of these spectacular catches, score a couple touchdowns. And like you said, Emeka Ibuka, a guy that's been a part of this offense for quite a few years, probably going to be mid to late first round, if not slip into the second round. And he has a relatively quiet day, and that's because Jeremiah Smith has become such a big target for Will Howard already. And it's only been 1 week of the season, but a lot to see and a lot to hang your hat on if you're the Buckeyes. And yeah, just this week another MAC school, Central Michigan, under the lights.
It's Western Michigan, I believe.
Oh, is it? Oh.
Yeah, there's too many Michigans in the MAC.
One of those Michigans that are in the MAC, but yeah, the Broncos, not the Chippewas, but yeah, it's a night game, which is kind of weird for this early in the season and not being a prime opponent for the Buckeyes, but it's a chance for, I guess, more people to see them. And I know the players love playing under the lights because there's just something special about that. And
right.
Yeah, I expect to see more of the same, a 4 or 5 touchdown or 5 or more touchdown lead. Maybe get to see some of the second stringers, get to see, I know they brought in Devin Brown at quarterback, and we want to see like Aaron Nolan and some of these other guys, but they're not going to do anything to jeopardize losing their red shirt, for some mop up time against a MAC opponent. So, but, the guys that are given the opportunity want to see them do what they did this week moving forward.
Yeah, and like we've talked about before, and the transfer portal is just it changed things so much. And Ken Carmen even mentioned today it's pretty much like NFL free agency. I mean, you look at Ohio State's roster already, and then you add a top 10 quarterback in Will Howard, you had a top 5 quarterback or running back in Quinshon Junkins, and then you bring in arguably the top defensive back in the country in Caleb Downs to already pretty stacked roster. All the guys that came back decided to come back instead of going to the NFL, and yeah, they've got the team to do it this year. So there's going to be a lot of pressure to win a national title for sure.
And it's crazy how the transfer portal has changed the game, because it used to be, you sit there on signing day and you're watching, 24/7 or ESPN and checking, the top 100 and seeing how many top 100 guys you get. And now it's like, if you miss out on them, maybe wait a year or two and there's a good chance they end up with you anyways through the transfer portal. And, and we see it, we cover Kent State and some of the smaller schools, and you see it there, but kind of in a reverse way. You see these guys come in and do well, and you're kind of like, don't do too well, don't get noticed, by one of these Power 5 schools that can swoop in with NIL deals and things like that, because you want to see them at the schools you went to or schools that you follow, aside from the Buckeyes or a bigger school like that. But yeah, it's definitely added an element to college football that wasn't there, 3, 4, 5 years ago, because at that point, guys could transfer given certain stipulations or whatever, but a lot of times they'd have to sit out a year or something. Now these guys are transferring and day one starting, Will Howard from Kansas State, you mentioned Caleb Downs from Alabama, the list goes on for other schools outside of Ohio State too, where these guys are transferring in and, they're starting right away. And yeah, it's definitely added a bit of intrigue just to see how teams build through recruiting, but then also once the transfer portal opens, how they kind of reassess their roster, kind of like you said, an NFL team does each offseason.
even the smaller schools like Akron.
Right.
They're both their quarterbacks. Ben Finley transferred from Cal, and Taj Bullock from Virginia Tech. So I mean, it's benefiting them as well. Getting a couple quarterbacks from bigger schools. And you mentioned we cover Kent State, and kind of breaking news. We're also going to be covering the Akron Zips this year, so we're adding that to our college coverage. Anybody that follows us know we're pretty heavy in high school sports coverage, and we're also starting to expand our college as well. So definitely looking forward to that this year. All right, so Sunday, finally, it's here. Week 1, we've got the Cleveland Browns opener at Huntington Bank. Is it Huntington Bank Stadium? Did I say that right?
Field. Huntington Bank Field. Because Huntington Bank Stadium's in Minnesota, and Huntington Park is in Columbus for the Clippers.
There's so many of them now.
Huntington's just taking over.
No nickname, though. Haslam said no nickname.
Bank Field. We'll make one. We just won't tell Uncle Jimmy.
Right. So 4 p.m. start this week. It's on Fox. Tom Brady making his debut in the booth with the Browns and the Cowboys. I seen a graphic today. It's crazy. Pretty much the whole country is going to be watching this game. I think it was 2 or 3 states where they're going to be showing the Buccaneers and Commanders, and then the rest of the states are going to be showing the Browns and Cowboys. So a lot of eyes are going to be on them this week. Even more of a reason to come out and look good and get a big win to start the season. There's one big thing that's going to help the Browns. Dallas's defensive back, Deron Bland, who crazy had 9 interceptions in his 2 seasons, had 14 picks in the NFL. Just a great young player. He's out for I think 6 to 8 games. Went on the IR, so won't have to face him, which is good for Deshaun Watson. I'm tickling on my throat. But some things to watch. The Browns. I don't know if you heard Jed Wills today. I don't know if he was supposed to leak it, but he kind of leaked that he won't be starting Sunday, which means it's most likely Jack Conklin. He did mention how good Conklin's looked at left tackle in practice. So it looks like it's going to be Conklin and DeJuan Jones at the tackles with Wills backing him up, even though he's returned to practice today. Yeah. Which I think that's my my preferred duo at the tackle spots. I think Conklin will be just fine at left tackle. Do you feel the same?
Yeah, it seemed weird. I don't know if Stefanski said it or if it was just people trying to put 2 and 2 together with Jed returning to practice, but there was talk about he may be able to start or could start, and then he comes out, he's like, yeah, I'm not starting. It's just like, well, the Browns are back, baby. But it'll be interesting with Conklin since he's been in Cleveland and probably even before when he was with Tennessee. Health has always been the issue. So whether it's right tackle or left tackle, we need him healthy to be out there. It's great to see that DeJuan Jones will be starting. He did nothing but impress last year, so I would have hated to see him, slide back into a reserve role just because guys returned from injury. But such is the nature of the beast. But yeah, I like Wills. I know he gets a bad rap, but I think with it being a contract year, I think we're going to see the best Jed Wills this season whenever he does return to the field. Whether or not he's part of the future plans beyond this season for Cleveland, I highly doubt that. But we shall see. But yeah, I'm excited to see the first team offense. And, I know Clarence talked about last week, the last thing we want to hear about for Deshaun Watson is rust. I'm tired of that excuse. If you're worried about him being rusty, he should have been playing at least a little bit through the preseason. If Patrick Mahomes can play a quarter or 2 here or there, there's no reason Deshaun Watson couldn't. I know there's been talk about his shoulder maybe being sore or something like that regarding his injury recovery from last year. But, you know, that we've been waiting for Deshaun Watson, and, you try to get past all the off field stuff and, try to just, focus in on between the line stuff. And he's shown flashes, but not enough flash to warrant what was given up, what they paid him. I know they restructured some things to free up some cap space this season and whatnot, but this needs to be the year. I know Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski were given contract extensions over the winter, but you know that's no guarantee that Jimmy doesn't get that itchy finger and pull the trigger on either of them if this team doesn't perform. And I know they're on paper the strength of schedule when taking into account last season's records. They're top for most difficult schedule, and it starts this week with Dallas. But you know you, you need to perform. And 3 or 4 years ago, maybe we do settle for a 500 record, but the way this team is built now and what they've shown over the past couple seasons, you've come to expect more. Whether or not you're playing a difficult schedule or not, you know, there's 32 teams in the NFL, and yeah, some have bad years, but when it comes to parity, the NFL is probably the most out of the NBA, MLB, and NFL. They're probably the most for parity. So there's no reason that you can't put it together and stuff. And a lot of times it's comes down to a couple plays, not having turnovers, unforced errors with penalties. And if you want to be a playoff team, those are the things that you have to do better than everyone else, whether or not you're better on paper or not when you're looking at the depth charts. So, yeah, but seeing Jerry Judy, almost forgot that they acquired him this offseason because really haven't seen him. Interesting to see how Murray Cooper does. Got a little bit more money, no extension of years, and then all the trade rumors with Ayuk a few weeks ago. Interested to see how he comes out. Would like to see Elijah Moore kind of live up to what we thought we were getting when we acquired him last year, and maybe sliding into that slot and third receiver option, maybe take some of the pressure off of him, and he's able to kind of settle into that position a little bit more. But yeah, the offense on paper, even without Chubb, and that's a big loss, big missing piece, but they still should be able to put up points. And the defense, when they're healthy, is the other three guys on the line going to do enough to kind of take the pressure off of Myles Garrett? Are the linebackers going to be able to apply pressure so Garrett isn't getting double teamed and chipped on every down? That's what you're going to need on defense, and defensive backs, no blown coverages and no stupid penalties, and hopefully Denzel Ward stops using his head so much when he's making tackles.
Yeah, the one thing that's going to be interesting, no matter who plays tackle, and which we said it looks like it's going to be Conklin and DeMond Jones, the Cowboys have one of the best pass rush duos in the league with Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence. So they're going to be a handful for sure. But on the other side of the ball with Zadarius Smith and Myles Garrett, the Cowboys are starting their rookie first-round pick at left tackle. Can't remember his name here. Tyler Guyton out of Oklahoma. And then on the other side, Terrence Steele, their right tackle, is average at best. So they should be able to get to Dak Prescott. Offensively, just you got to stop CeeDee Lamb. I mean, he's the guy. Hopefully, I'm not sure who's going to be on him. Maybe Denzel Ward. But running back, they lost Tony Pollard. They re-signed Zeke, who's a shell of what he used to be. They just signed Delvin Cook. I know they have a younger guy, I can't remember his name, that kind of split carries of Pollard last year, who might not end up being the primary guy. But like I said, it comes down to stopping Prescott and CeeDee Lamb, and if you can keep those guys in check, I think you have a good shot. And offensively, you mentioned Elijah Moore. It's time for him to step up. He's had 1-2 good games since we acquired him, and I was excited when we got him from the Jets. I thought he'd be a big piece, but you know what? I just have a feeling that Cedric Tillman's going to end up passing him up this year. I know that they raved about Tillman this preseason and training camp and how much better he looked from his rookie year. And he's a guy with a lot of talent, so I think he can end up passing on Moore at some point this year, and I think this will be Moore's last year. Speaking of the Ayuk, did you hear the reported offer that the Browns made?
No.
A second, a third, and Amari Cooper is what allegedly what the offer was to 49ers for Ayuk.
Wow.
Thank God that did not go through.
Yeah,
because, I mean, he's a talented young receiver, but man, he's not that good. Come on.
No. That's a lot.
Yeah, it's no wonder the 49ers jumped at that offer, and thankfully Ayuk didn't want to come here because I don't want him here for that price. That's for sure.
No, and then
I get what they were trying to do.
Yeah.
I get what they were trying to do. This is Cooper's probably going to be his last year in Cleveland. Ayuk could have stepped up and been that new number one with Jerry Jeudy, but they'll have to. Hopefully Tillman develops into that number two guy maybe, and maybe Jeudy. He's always had the talent to be a number one. Maybe change the scenery and this offense. Maybe he steps up in that number one role next year. So, but that's next year. We got to worry about this year. And just a quick comment on Judd Wills. It's not a talent issue with him. He's got the talent. It's an effort issue, and it always has been. I mean, how many times do you see him get beat and then he just gives up, just stands there?
Yeah.
I mean, he's got the talent. It's effort, and like you said, being in a contract year, looking for that new contract, whether it's here or somewhere else, he's going to want to play well and have a big year. So hopefully that ramps up his effort for this season. All right, so it's prediction time.
Oh boy,
we need a winner and a score for Sunday.
Ooh, man.
Putting you on the spot.
Yeah, you are. Browns 24, Dallas 20. 24-20.
Okay. Yeah, if you can hold them to 20 points or less, you definitely should win.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go Browns 34-24.
All right.
Like I said, lock down CeeDee Lamb and you should be good to go.
Yeah. Yep. And he had his holdout as well. So, he and Prescott played multiple years together, but still there's timing, there's agility, there's stamina, and they always say you can't replicate reps. You can try all you want, but once you get the pads on and you're running routes at full speed, sometimes it takes a little bit for the legs to get under you. But yeah, as long as the Browns win, but the openers have never been kind to the Browns since returning, whether it's home or away or a bad opponent, a good opponent. I wonder if LeBron will be there in the Cowboys hat. Remember that?
Yeah.
What year was that?
No, he's a Browns fan now.
Yeah.
Remember, he changed. He changed over.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to it. Didn't watch much preseason. Couldn't take couldn't sit through much of that. So I'm definitely ready for the regular season to get rolling. And like we said on our preview show, Browns season preview, the early part of the schedule is where they need to make their hay because they got to run that gauntlet of quarterbacks and tough teams in that second half. And hopefully they play well the first half, and you get Nick Chubb back, a healthy, fresh Nick Chubb for that second half to give you a boost. And like we said last week, they ended up re-signing Deontay Foreman.
Yeah.
It was just a roster shuffling deal, so good to see. Because I know I've seen some people predicting a big season for Jerome Ford. So, I know he had some good games last year, but it seems like he'd get his yards in big chunks and then average like 2-3 yards a carry after that. So, we'll see. Got him, we got Pierre Strong, and we got Deontay Foreman until Chubb gets back. So,
and with a good passing game, keeps the box from being loaded up, and maybe that allows for a couple of holes to be made for a Jerome Ford. He's got the shiftiness to hit the hole and make those big plays. It's just a matter of getting through that first level of defense, and but if Watson's finding receivers and they're getting chunk plays through the air rather, and then you get into some nickel and dime situations, and then maybe that opens up the run game. And I know teams, especially with Chubb out, are probably looking for the Browns come out and pass first. So you need a run game, whether it's Foreman or Strong or whomever gets the rock, they're going to have to do something with it, or, Watson will be dropping back and there'll be 8 guys in coverage. But
yeah, I think Ford's going to start, and then you'll probably see Foreman. He's the bigger physical guy, get the short yardage and the goal line, kind of like Kareem Hunt last year, and rightfully so, since he has the same number and he's got the same hairdo, looks just like him, except for the name. So, hopefully it's going to be a fun season this year, and we'll be talking about it either way, be it good or bad. So,
yep.
All right. Anything else before we head on out of here?
Go Browns, go Guards, and before you know it, the Cavs will be in preseason mode. And training
camp's coming up. So
yep,
it goes fast.
Yep.
And so
and week 3 of high school football already.
Yeah, I think we've got 8 games on the docket for coverage this week, so looking forward to another big week of that, and hopefully the rain holds off for us Friday night for all our.
I'll be in a press box, so let it rain.
I was planning on being on the field, but it's looking like I'm going to be in the press box again this week.
Just take the easy way out. Go upstairs.
They were calling for a lot of rain and storms last Friday, and it ended up being okay. So you never know. All right, guys. Appreciate you tuning in. We'll be back on our regular Monday schedule with no holiday next week. So until then, we will talk to you then. Go Browns, go Guards, go Buckeyes.